you will win myfrontpagestory.com, myfrontpagestory.com. Everybody go to the website on your phone right now while I tell you the correct information about Joe Brady being the new Bills head coach.
All right, I respect all of this. I don't really know why me and Mike just got clipped in this here. We're catching strays about it.
You know why, Mike?
Yes.
I'll tell you why. Because I do these all the time, and I have found that if I somehow make fun of the host or rip the host,
easy points
in the process of my spiel, that people remember it more because they laugh and they're glad that I ripped you guys.
It's like,
so even if it's not true, even a little bit,
I'm happy to play a part. Then that's fine.
I tied it into you guys, and I made fun of you guys, and so they're like, "Oh, that was funny." And now myfrontpagestory.com sticks in their head just a little bit more.
It's been like 4 minutes now, but I thought Ross was about to say people didn't tune in to hear me talk about Joe Brady. They tuned in to hear about how close my high school is to Grant Udinski.
Right.
That's what they tuned in to listen to.
Right.
So this is better. Your stuff is better than that.
So what do you think here, Brady? It's a little too in-house for my taste.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, listen, I understand why they hired Brady, but I think it's a tough sell. And I'll tell you why it's a tough sell. The whole point of moving on from McDermott was because the status quo wasn't working. You know, the same old wasn't getting them over the hump. And it was time to make a bold move and fire McDermott and bring somebody else in that might be able to get them over the hump. To just promote a 36-year-old who's never been a head coach before from within, like if I'm a Bills fan, I totally get a Bills fan sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute, we already had Joe Brady. Like we're not even adding anything that will help, although I will tell you, my former Bills teammate, Jimmy Leonhard, I do think would do a good job as the coordinator if that, in fact, is the case and he comes in. So I think that part of it.
I like that, too.
A positive.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll say upgrade, but I think that part of it could be a positive. But, you know, they've had weird things happen in all of their playoff losses, as well as that one or two regular season game that they lose every year that they shouldn't. And I guess I wonder, is a first-time head coach, like first time doing the whole game management, clock management, timeouts, challenges, is he going to be what gets us over the hump in these close playoff games, or is he going to kind of be learning on the job?
Good question. Big question. You know, it's interesting. Like, the Bills have been very productive on offense under Brady. He leaned into James Cook almost right away, and that became their identity. Cook went 1 year to touchdown records, and the next year led the league in rushing. Part of the overall point here, Ross, that like Bulldog made too, it's a little bit too familiar for this opportunity the Bills have. You know, the easy counterpoint is that, like, well, it's gone really well. Yes, there are frustrating losses, but also, like, they've been near at the top of the league in offense here for a couple years. And I think the Brady skeptics are kind of having to play it's really all just because of Josh Allen card today.
You know, it's interesting because it feels like when they move on from McDermott, it's like, hey, we got to shake things up. We got to change things up. But then as they went through the process, you know, they interviewed a bunch of guys. I kind of thought they were going to end up hiring Brian Dable. But then ultimately, it's like they chose to stick with what they knew. They chose continuity and familiarity when on some level it felt like moving on from McDermott was because familiarity and, you know, continuity wasn't working. You know what the truth is? And nobody really wants to admit this, but nobody knows. You know, like Joe Brady's never been a head coach before. This could be a slam dunk, and he could end up being a rock star, and make great decisions, and maybe Joe's able to get them over the hump, or it could be a disaster. We're all really just speculating. Nobody knows, and the truth is, nobody's opinion today actually matters. Like the fans, me, any other quote-unquote influencers or experts or whatever, it's going to play out, and we're all going to get a chance to see it play out, and we'll see what happens then. Because if it doesn't work, my guess is Brandon Beane would be next, because I'm sure he was very influential in this process, and I'm sure he had his reasons why he liked Joe Brady. But the thing is those reasons probably have a lot to do with level of comfort between them, familiarity between them. I also am guessing that he probably feels like if he went with Daboll, that maybe Daboll would be a little bit more willing to challenge him.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that's a little bit less likely with a 36-year-old offensive coordinator that you just promoted and gave life-altering financial security to. I'm always fascinated by the inner office politics part of it, if you will.
Yeah, that's the thing for me, Ross. Like right from the drop here, with the way they handled McDermott's dismissal, the news conference last week, there's you don't know how any guy is going to do in the job, especially for a first time. So what you can do is judge the people making the choices, right? And we all, I think, a lot of us here recognize that McDermott and Beane were growing apart. There were clues dropped all year by McDermott referencing his dissatisfaction with certain roster choices that were made that I took as subtle jabs, maybe not so subtle jabs, at Brandon Beane. And I'll bet inside the building they went over the same way. Right. And Beane, you said it last week, right? The GM has got the owner's ear for 3.5 hours every Sunday. I'm sure it came up. Right. So it feels like McDermott was challenging them in a way that I think I want people from the outside to come in and challenge them. And I'm seeing numerous now references to trumpeting the reason Brady got the job is that he recognizes the importance of there being, a healthy relationship between the coaching staff and player personnel, that there's got to be a synergy there. And that to me reads like, don't say you don't like our wide receivers in public. And, I can appreciate wanting to keep stuff in-house, but I just feel like they opted for the path of least resistance when I think maybe a more objective look at the overall was called for.
Well, didn't they have a good relationship between the head coach and GM for 8 years, but it didn't get them over the hump? And this is the first year they didn't have it. And by the way, I'll say publicly, I don't like their wide receivers. Anybody can tell you that they need better wide receivers. Especially in clutch situations, late in games. You're watching the Seahawks with Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. You're watching the Rams with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I think if they were being honest, they would probably tell you that they'd rather have any of those four guys over, Brandon Cooks late in the game, even though Brandon did some really good things for them. So I think that's a big part of it. I guess what I would ask you, my biggest issue with the whole scenario is I believe that they would have had a pretty decent chance at John Harbaugh or Kevin Stefanski, and neither one of those guys committed to where they were going until divisional round weekend. The same weekend the Bills lost. So I guess I'm wondering if they could have, and we talked about this last week, behind the scenes, let it be known, hey, we might have an opening here. Because I think either one of those guys would be guys that would really make a lot of sense and that the fan base could have gotten around. I'm curious, once those guys are committed elsewhere, from your listeners, from your callers, who was kind of the favorite? Did they want Brian Daboll? Was there someone else? Was there someone that people were really excited about?
I think by the time we got to yesterday, the Jacksonville assistant. Now, this is maybe because I felt this way, and Bulldog did too, but it seemed everywhere I looked yesterday, I was hearing more about him. Their betting markets were sort of moving toward Grant Udinski, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. So was he the favorite? I mean, it was pretty split, probably, because there are fans who don't like the you've mentioned, I think, 3 times Brady's age. This guy's 30. And so is Davis Webb, or just turned 31 on the Denver staff. So a lot of fans would have resented, and maybe this is also that, Brady, someone so young. But Dable isn't everybody's cup of tea. Some of the other candidates seemed like formalities. And I guess I would guess no, that Harbaugh and Stefanski would not have suited them because of their decision to do this today. But I don't know that. Maybe there is a line here that a candidate of that caliber would have crossed. But my guess would be that the Bills would also have not hired those men.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been in production meetings with Joe. I think he's a really good coach, and I am as curious as anyone to see how it plays out, because this is a lot to take on, and I'm assuming he's still going to call plays. And, there are examples where that does not go very well. There are also certainly examples where it does go well, and the guys are able to do both. But I don't know. It feels like a lot. Does his play calling suffer? Does he? Because at least with McDermott, he had other guys calling the defense and offense. Now Brady's not only going to be a first-time head coach at 36, he's more or less doing double duty. You guys know how I feel. I certainly hope it works out for him, but it's a major challenge.
Ross, Seattle or Bulldog, do you have something else on?
No, I wanted to talk to Ross about talking to Darnold after that game.
What a game.
That had to be incredible.
You mentioned the receivers there. How good is Puka? I mean, they're both so good, JSN. And you saw a classic.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I got to tell you, by the way, the Seahawks might have the best behaved fan base in the NFL. And what I mean by that is they don't say a peep when the Seahawks are on offense. I mean, not a word. And then when they're on defense, they get crazy loud, which is exactly what you're looking for. And it reminds me of the Colts when Peyton Manning was there. Peyton had basically trained the fans to do exactly what he wanted them to do, and it worked out very, very well. I think the Seahawks obviously have a good team, but to your point, I'm thrilled for Sam Darnold. Absolutely thrilled. I think it's a great life lesson for everyone. His 5th team had never won a playoff game until this year. Now he's going to the Super Bowl, and they're the favorite. Pretty awesome. It really is. It's pretty awesome, and it's one of my favorite aspects of my job. I only am on sideline twice a year, but one of them is always the conference championship game on radio. And to be able to talk to these guys during, minutes after the best moment of their life or during the best moment of their life for a lot of them, it's really, really cool. I mean, Cooper Kupp was definitely emotional when I was talking with him. Darnold was a little bit more businesslike. But even, I don't know if you saw that video from Mike McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, that before the season, in the opening meeting of practice of the season, he had a video, in that video where he says, "Men, here's the vision. It's a home playoff. It's a home NFC championship game. It's being played here." Have you guys seen that video or heard about it?
No, I haven't.
It's a cool video that they took from his opening speech of the season.
Okay.
And what's funny about it, at least to me, is I said to him, my first question was, "Mike, when you did that video for the opening meeting of practice, did you really think you guys would be hosting the NFC Championship game?" And he said, "No," which I thought was great. I appreciated the honesty. And he's an excellent coach, and feels like over the last month of the season or so that they've been the best team. which also reminds me, it's got to be incredibly painful that it's the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And year one of Rabel, year two of Drake May. I mean, it already was bad enough that it's not the Bills, but I feel like that's got to make it. I don't know. You guys have to tell me how much worse it makes it.
I definitely have not been emotionally prepared for them to be this good this fast. So
I'll put it this way:
yeah.
I would have much preferred the Chiefs.
Wow, that's saying a lot. Right?
I would have much preferred the Broncos.
Oh, sure.
Anybody, if you're a Bills fan, anybody but the Patriots, it just doesn't seem fair. Especially when I still feel like if the Bills played the Patriots 5 times tomorrow, the Bills would win 3 of them or more.
We'll set the game up next week. Thanks for today. MyFrontPageStory.com, Ross Tucker, NFL. Have a good week.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
All right.